Hi crafty friends, the long-awaited first page in my new workbook, Prompt, Create, Repeat. If you haven't seen this book yet, I will link a video below that explains what it is all about. But basically, it's a workbook I created that has got 50 different prompts inside with a blank page on the right for you to interpret that prompt in a creative way. My book is available to purchase through Amazon. I'll put a link in the description box below. To those who have already purchased, thank you so much for your support. I really hope you enjoy the book. Thank you for all your comments about whether I should go random or work in order. The majority said random, and that's what I'm going to do for this book. And I've picked a prompt that inspired me, and that is a rainbow. The book is new and it's still a little stiff, so I'm going to put a big bulldog clip at the top just to hold the pages open. It'll loosen up as we work through the book. Now, I had mentioned about the paper of this workbook. It is only 100 GSM, which is relatively thin for mixed media. And there are multiple ways that you can prepare the page to work on it without colors leaking through. The first way would be to apply a layer of gesso on the front and the back of the page. This will waterproof it, and you can add any medium to it. Another way is to stick a piece of paper over the page. You can use a thicker mixed media cardstock, a watercolor paper, or a heavy sketchbook paper. The third way is to add a collage background. And I will work through all three methods as I work through the book. Today I'm going to do the collaging. Because my rainbow is going to be quite bright, as it is the focal point, and it's going to be very colorful, I'm going to keep my background very neutral. So I've collected a whole lot of collage papers. They're just book pages, old encyclopedia pages from a dictionary, sheet music, a great way to use up scraps. And I'm cutting them into strips. Well, I'm tearing them actually. I'm using a ruler. Some I'm going to tear freehand, and I'm going to tear enough to cover the whole page. Once I have enough strips, I'm going to start sticking them down. I'm going to use glue stick for this. The paper I'm sticking down, the collage paper, is pretty thin and it's going onto a flat paper surface, so glue stick should be plenty. You can do it in any order or any design. I've decided to go across from left to right with my strips, but you can try lots of different ways. It's your page, you do it your way. Now, this book I created for you is to encourage creative exploration. The prompts that I've put on each page are to help spark an idea and to also help with something called blank page paralysis. That is more about just the fear of starting a new page or making that first mark on the page in fear of making a mess or messing it up. I will go more in depth with that idea as I progress through the book. But I really want this to be a fearless creation. I don't want you to be afraid of making a mess. It's totally okay if you do. There are 50 prompts in the book. You're likely not to love every single thing you create. Same as me, I don't love everything. I do have a lot of yuck pages that I make, but that's okay. That is how we learn from it. We know what to try next time. And you can always go back and add to pages. Because it's mixed media, you can also cover it up. I do recommend having gesso handy. It's probably one of my favorite tools and the most used on my craft desk. So as I work through this book, because there are so many prompts and I want to sort of cover as much as I can, I might try and do maybe 2 pages per video. As I progress, I'll see how I go. And I'm going to show you everything. Even when I have failures and I have pages that I don't like, I will show that all. I don't want you to feel alone and think you're the only one that has that fear of making a mistake. It's perfectly normal. It happens to all of us. We all have bad days, and it's not the end of the world. It really is just paper. We need to let it go and move on. So I'm done with my collage background. I'm loving the way that looks so far. There's a nice variety of background, but it's keeping that nice light neutral tone. I'm just going to trim off all that excess. I'm also going to use a piece of masking tape down the center of this. This will help to stick down the left part of all those collage pieces. That's like sort of down the spine or down the center. It's also going to help reinforce that section between the two pages. And also, I just love masking tape. I love using it, the textures, the look. It features a lot in my pages. So the background is done, and I'm going to interpret the prompt rainbow. Very traditionally, I'm going to make an arched rainbow on that background paper. And I'm going to use mainly markers. I've received these from Atrxx to try out. And since this is an experimental book, I'm going to try them out in the book. There's heaps of colors. There are acrylic markers with a brush tip. I do have some of the other pens which actually work really well, so I'm looking forward to trying these out. I'm just going to quickly pick the rainbow colors, since we're going traditional. I'm very worried about making a wonky rainbow, so I'm going to make a quick little template just for the initial shape, which will be the high arch shape. I had a fear that I would do the first mark with the marker and it'll be lopsided or too far one way, so I thought a template would work good. So I've just cut the general shape. I'm going to make one pencil mark with the template just so I have a starting point, and that makes me feel more confident. So how these pens work, it took me a moment to figure it out because I don't read instructions. I was wondering why the ink wasn't coming through, and then I realized there is a little cap on the back of the pen. So after giving it a good shake, I just pop that little cap off, and then there's a button that you just keep pressing and it pumps the ink into the tip. So I'm going to do a test mark on the paper, and I love it. It is creamy, but still slightly transparent, so you can see the book pages underneath, but the color is vibrant, and I can't wait to get started with them. So I'm just going to make my pencil mark rainbow, and then I'm going to use my first color, the red, to make the first marks. I'm not sure if you noticed, but when I did the test mark, I turned that scrap paper over, and the ink had not gone through. These pens don't bleed through the paper. There is a link to these pens in the description box below. So going in with my first color, it is going to be slightly wonky because it is hand drawn. That part is okay. I'm going over it a couple of times, but my rainbow is taking shape. Going in with the next color. I must say that initial pumping action to get the ink into the nib is really fun, and I love to watch it flow in. Of course, for this you could also use watercolors, you could also use acrylic paint, you could use colored pencils, you could use regular markers, whatever you have in your stash. To mix it up a little bit, I'm going to make the yellow color with little bits of yellow paper. Instead of drawing it in with a marker, I'm going to cut small strips and then glue them in that section. I just made the orange section a little thicker first. So another idea is you could make your entire rainbow just with little bits of collage, or like in a mosaic style. You can see some sections of the paper are sort of overflowing onto the orange part because the paper is torn a bit wonky. That I don't mind. I like that you can see there's also a paper layer. I've gone for a light green as opposed to a dark green here because I'm thinking I'd like to make some designs on these rainbow stripes afterwards. And if the colors are a little too dark, it might not show. Let's see. I'm not quite sure yet what we're going to do once we're finished with these colors. and a beautiful light blue. You can see that the pens give very good coverage, but you can still see some of the background paper shining through. That's what I really like about them. They're very creamy, is one way of explaining it. So the color is opaque, but still slightly transparent, if that makes sense. And then for my last color, which is the purple or the violet, I'm going to use the paper strips again. This time I'm making the pieces slightly smaller, so it's a bit more like a very messy mosaic. Now, I do have to add that you don't have to have this book to work on this project. As much as I'd love for you to buy the book, of course, you don't have to if you don't want to. You can work along with me when I do the videos with the prompts I work on in another book, on a piece of paper, on a piece of cardstock, in your creative journal. That is also totally okay. Going to make the red line slightly thicker to be even with the others. So far, I'm loving this rainbow. I'm going to go in with a black fine liner pen and make a frame around each color, so it's a bit more defined. It's going to obviously look very hand-drawn and doodle-like, which is a style I really like. I just feel that it needs that definition. I'm going to add some designs on some of the colors. Like for the light blue, I'm going to go in and make some spots. And some small lines across for the green. For the orange color, I'm going to do some cursive handwriting. You can see how much character it's added with those black marks. The rainbow is like lifting off the page. I've prepared the white marker and I'm going to make little hearts all along the red stripe. Oh, I love that. That came out really cute. You'll notice I do a lot of practicing things on scrap papers before I do them on my work. That's because I'm also scared of messing up. I want to do some scribbles on one of the rainbow colors, but I was worried it might look a little odd. So I practiced first on the yellow piece and I thought it looked okay. And I'm just really scribbling all over that color. It looks as if I'm actually like checking if the pen works, that kind of scribbling. And I like how it turned out. I've darkened that center just so you can see it's the middle of the rainbow. How about some leaves for the color purple? I wanted to add some color at the top of the page. I wanted it to look as if the color is sort of popping off the rainbow. I've covered up the sections that I don't want any splatter on. And while I was preparing for the splatter, I decided to do some hearts in the same colors as my rainbow using the acrylic markers. I totally change my mind all the time. Sometimes it's a good decision, sometimes not so much. And then I think I pushed the purple one too much because some of the ink dripped onto my work. Thankfully, it wasn't on my actual work, but it actually wouldn't have been so bad. It could have added to it. So then that gave me an idea to maybe try and splatter some of this ink from the pens onto the page. I'm using a Posca pen though because it doesn't always work with the Atrxx Markers. That was sort of an accidental thing. But I know with the Posca pen, it works all the time. So you just keep pressing on the nib, and then when it's filled with a lot of the ink, you sort of just shake it up and down onto your work and all these droplets fall down. A little bit too much green over there, more than I had planned. But then again, it's also okay. It's like a burst of color coming off the rainbow. I'm also going to add a black frame all the way around, just using my marker. I'm going to go along the edge, about 2 or 3 millimeters in. I love doing this when the main part is quite bold. I think it finishes it off and sort of just grounds everything. I then decided to add some more scribbles along the edge of the rainbow at the top on the red. Then it won't have such a defined line with the red. It's got the scribbles that help it blend into the background. I'm also going to go around each heart with the fine liner to add more definition and to make them stand out a little bit more. Otherwise, I felt they looked a little bit unfinished. Well, I really hope you enjoyed my very first page in my Prompt, Create, Repeat workbook. To those who have purchased my book, thank you very much for your support. I really hope you enjoyed the book, or books if you bought more than one, as much as I enjoyed making them for you. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the little bell so you're notified every time I upload new content. I also wanted to show you that none of the colors leaked through to the other page. Thanks again for watching, happy creating, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!